Today we're reading some more nice guy stories and I'm so excited for this. I'm sure these are going to be confusing and infuriating and unsettling like they always are. And yeah, thank you for joining me on this adventure, guys. I really appreciate it. And with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful time. A guy tried to take my phone and use it to text my then boyfriend that we were over. When confronted, Nice Guy said that my boyfriend didn't treat me right, or else we wouldn't be doing long distance. This was during college and he was 1.5 hours away by train. When I obviously got mad, he called me a biatch, a you-know-what, and an idiot for not realizing what I had in front of me. What? What, somebody that's super insulting? Yeah, that's not a good thing. Cue 3 days of emo angsty Facebook statuses with me tagged in them. I blocked him. Imagine posting passive-aggressive statuses about somebody and having the audacity to tag them. That's unbelievable. He cried about why we weren't friends anymore. I asked him to give me some time and we could try again. 1.5 days later, a you-know-what picture. When I didn't respond to that, he sent me a long handwritten letter about how perfect my body is and how he would treat me like a princess, especially in bed. What a way to start an episode. Oh my god. And the fact that they were acting like this and they had no idea that they were doing anything wrong, and to call them an idiot for not realizing what they had in front of them, that's hilarious in such a bad sort of way. How can you be so unaware of your own behavior? It's like they brainwash themselves into thinking that they are nice while doing anything that isn't nice. Everyone thought he was super nice. I did too at first. Turns out that he had kinks and anger issues that I wasn't into. He made a key to my house that I didn't know about. Screamed anytime I talked to my guy friends, let himself in one day and kicked in my bathroom door while I was using it. Jesus! And went through all of my messages. He didn't find anything because there was nothing to find. I told him over and over again that we're not in a relationship, and he just told me, in my head we are. What? I can't believe these. I found a BuzzFeed article, by the way, guys. That's where all of these are coming from, but I'm assuming it was originally like an Ask Reddit post or something. These are intense. They kicked in your bathroom door. Oh, and he also screamed at me, I am so-and-so. I am love. I quite literally moved across states to be close to my family because he wouldn't stop stalking me, but he's a nice guy. Just ask him or his friends and family. Yeah, I don't understand how you can do stuff like this and not be like, oh, you know what? I probably shouldn't have done that, or that probably wasn't a super nice thing to do. It has to be like an attitude where you think you can't ever do anything wrong. Whatever it is, it's so bad. This guy messaged me on OkCupid. He was 62 and I was 20, and he was a dozen years older than my parents. I said thanks, but no thanks. I was uncomfortable with that much of an age difference. Good luck out there. He flipped. Non-stop messages vacillating between how I'd regret this, wheedling, compliments and apologies, and calling me a you-know-what, an S-word, a blue baller, etc. Literally dozens upon dozens of messages a day. He was a lawyer. He had ways of making me regret this. I would never do as good as him. No other man would treat me so well, and I was a you-know-what if I said no. On and on. This was many years ago, and at the time you could report someone for harassment on OkCupid, but it didn't stop that person from messaging you, calling somebody an S-word and then saying that you're not going to find somebody better. Yeah, those two sentences don't really make sense together, you know? You could chuck something in the air and it'd land on somebody who wouldn't call you an S-word. Like, of course they can find somebody better, and I'm pretty sure they know that. Revolting. I met him at a party, gave him a ride home, and after belting out "Don't Stop Believing" together, he asked me for my number. We went on one date and texted for a week. Then Saturday morning I woke up to 50 plus text messages that started with asking me what I was doing, sleeping because I worked in the morning, and went all the way up to I should just end myself since nobody wants to talk to me. Wait a second, I think we've read this. I might as well finish it. I told him that was unacceptable, as I'd already told him I worked Saturday morning. But even if I hadn't, there's no reason to text me over 50 times. If I'm not answering, I'm not answering. He whined about being so nice and how good he was to me and blah blah blah. Thankfully, when my friends asked me why I was ignoring such a nice guy, showing them the messages was enough for them to drop it. Yeah, that was all for the first time we read it, and it still is. Like, yeah, they weren't actually that nice. Quite the opposite, really. I had a Korean parent pen pal for a few months who seemed pretty nice. We talked online and on the phone a couple of times. I'd lived in Korea for a while before then and I'd come back to the US, and there were some cheap little snacks I said I really missed and that I couldn't find because I lived out in the middle of nowhere. He offered to send me some and he seemed nice, so I gave him my address to mail them to me. Oh no. Well, big mistake. He didn't end up mailing the snacks. He decided he was gonna surprise me by flying his ass down to the US and coming to my apartment. What? To my horror, documenting the entire trip and sending it to me. Fortunately, it was gated and he was too stupid to think of sneaking through the gate behind someone, but he kept sending me pictures of him outside the complex patrolling the perimeter and asking me to come out and see him so that he could take me on a date. He was outraged that I wouldn't come out to see him after he'd been so nice to fly out there and try to entice me with gifts that he bought. He was under the impression that this gesture was romantic. His "I'm outside your apartment" selfies turned into post-cry selfies and "why don't you want to be with me?" and so on and so forth. And no, this dude and I never talked or even joked about the possibility of a relationship prior to him showing up. I tried to explain why it wasn't appropriate for a 50-year-old dude to fly to another country and stalk a 20-something's apartment, but he didn't get it. He said it wasn't stalking because we're friends and I gave him my address, so he assumed that he was free to come over. What, without even asking? No, dude. This continued for about 10 days until he had to go back to Korea, and then he mailed me a ring with his and my name engraved on it. That is so terrifying, and they think they're being romantic? No, that's creepy and horrifying. You don't ever want somebody just showing up at your house. Imagine flying to somebody that you don't even really know, that's in a different country, and showing up at their place without even asking because you assume that it's romantic. I met a guy on OkCupid in 2020, a nerdy bodybuilder type who was an elementary school guidance counselor. Sounds great, right? You'd think so, but no. We had 2 virtual Zoom dates. On the second one, he told me he could see himself raising a family with me. On the second Zoom call, yeah, relax, buddy. We hadn't even discussed what kind of relationship each of us were looking for, so it was completely out of left field. He also would not stop mentioning that he could bench press me. I agreed to a 3rd Zoom date, but after thinking about it, I broke it off right at the beginning of the call, or tried to at least. He then spent the next 30 minutes sobbing about how no one wants to date him, how his older brother has a family already, and how he wants to have kids too, so they can all play together. Then he broke down even more and told me that he'd been sexually assaulted at a party a year ago. I told him that I was sorry to hear that, but if he wants to talk about it, he should probably connect with his friends or get therapy. He then insisted that I was lying about wanting to break it off, otherwise why would I stay on the call and listen to him vent for this long? He said, "You just want me to make you change your mind? No other guy is going to be as nice to you as I would." When I tried to tell him how gross and manipulative he was being, he hung up. To this day, one of my worst nice guy experiences, and to have the audacity to say no other guy is ever going to be as nice to you as I would. Like, relax, dude. And if you've pretty much only spoken to somebody twice and it's over a Zoom call, yeah, probably don't tell them how much you want to have children with them. That's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? New uni, new city. I met some people from my field of study who introduced me to more people from other fields. That's how I met Nice Guy. Cool dude at first, we shared some similar tastes. A month later, he made me visit the city. We went to a nightclub with a group of friends celebrating the beginning of the year, and he tried to flirt with me. I rejected him clearly, but nicely. After that, he began acting like a douchebag. When I finally asked him what was wrong, he yelled at me, saying things like, "I'm a kind dude, and since I've known you, you've treated me like I was nothing." I explained to him that I'm sorry that treating him the way I treated every friend in the group made him feel that way, but that I wasn't responsible for how he felt, especially when I actually quite liked him and had good times with him. After arguing over the fact that I'm a heartless biatch and whatnot, he then told me that in short, I shouldn't have rejected him that night because I owed him since he made me visit the city. Hell no, dude. In short, apparently when someone helps you, it owes you a free ticket for sexual favors. He was nothing but nice and thoughtful, and I should have given him a chance. And for not being interested in him, I was nothing but a C-word who doesn't understand the chance that she had, because he could have drugged and you-know-whatted me when we were alone, but he didn't since he's so nice and so charming. No. That's horrifying. And as soon as they said that bit where they thought they owed them the horizontal mumbo or sexual favors, that's the biggest red flag ever. Bro, just because you do something like this doesn't mean that anybody ever owes you anything sexual, and that alone is a revolting attitude. mood, and it only got worse. An acquaintance of mine decided I was someone that he wanted, and he kept calling me before the days of text messages and propositioning me even though I was married at the time. He knew this. Eventually, I told him that I would not speak with him anymore if he brought up horizontal mumbo again, and he promised to just keep it friendly. A couple more calls later, and he did it again, and I hung up on him. He called one last time, and I didn't pick up, and he left me a message that said, "I can see that I've finally gotten through to you, and you're ready for me." Clueless much? And yeah, what? You're just meant to forget that you're married or something? Unbelievable. I went out on a first date, and I wasn't feeling it. I offered to pay the tab, but he wouldn't let me. We parted ways. You'd think that would be the end, right? I know. He texted me later telling me how I hurt him by accepting his kindness, the dinner that he paid for even though he didn't have to, and just sending him home alone. He was in the mood and said, "Why don't you come over and work off that dinner? Wink, wink." I responded by telling him to lose my number. He responded by calling me a money-hungry you-know-what. I responded by sending my half of the dinner that we shared to him via PayPal. Yeah, so you even offered to pay in the first place, and they said no just to end up saying stuff like this? Like, were you there, bro? They offered to pay? You can't get upset about stuff like that after the fact and after they already said that they would pay, but you told them not to. But no, trying to guilt trip them into feeling bad so that they'd come over and sleep with them. It went from bad to worse. My parents had friends who had a son considerably older than me, as in like 13 years older. However, when I reached puberty, he took a liking to me. My mother loved his family and thought he was so handsome, so she always tried to make us hang out in hopes that it would kindle something. Mind you, I was 16 when he was 29. What? My mum saw nothing wrong with this. Anyhow, nothing ever happened, and I got a boyfriend until I was 23, at which time we broke up. This is when Mr. Nice Guy swooped in, showing up at my house with flowers and gifts unannounced. I never even gave him my address. He asked my mum. Wow, that would be such an awful feeling if your mum liked somebody that you're really not interested in. And also, they should not be okay with this. 16 and 29? Ew. Gross. Then he would notice I posted I had a cold on Facebook, and he'd show up with cold medicine and soup, which would be nice if I had any interest in him, but I didn't. He would look where I checked into on Facebook and coincidentally just be there. Oh no, this is so creepy. I feel bad being like, dude, stop. Because my mum invited him to every family function, and I didn't want to make things weird. Yeah, but surely you told your mum to stop doing this. It's so awful that your mum didn't realize how wrong this is. It hit the peak when he got a job where I work just to be closer to me, and he told everyone that we were dating. Spoiler alert, we weren't. I flipped out on him, and I told him he was creepy, and that after all of these years, he never took the hint from me never answering his calls or messages, or taking him up on his relentless attempts to take me out to dinner. I quit my job, and I moved, and I blocked him on everything, and had a firm conversation with my mum about keeping him away from me. She was upset and made excuses for him, but ultimately obliged. Years later, I'm now married with a baby, and he still relentlessly pursues me if he sees me in public. That's disgusting. Wow, that one was intense, and it just kept getting more intense. I had a guy ask me to hang as a friend, just me and him. First red flag, he said, "You met my kids, you have to date me." What? Oh my god, these are ridiculous. Second red flag was bashing their mum to them for over an hour, calling her names for cheating. Cheating is wrong, but not something you talk about to the kids that you share. And third red flag, telling the daughter she was the favorite in front of the son. Just as I was about to mention after the kids went to bed that I wanted to leave, he went on an hour rant about how I needed to take my makeup off. I had to pretend to be calm. He deliberately was stalling and blocking the door. I peeled out of there. I left something over there and I had to swing by, but I refused to go in. I eventually had to tell him why I'd never hang out with him again. He quote unquote didn't realize how bad he came off. I went on a first date with a guy, casual date for a coffee. It wasn't terrible, but it was obvious that we didn't really click that well. He did the typical nice guy stuff during the date where he talked about how he was different from other guys, knew how to treat a woman, and some talking down on gym bros, etc. I ended the date pretty fast as I wasn't really feeling it, and had just gotten off a midnight shift, so so it was past my bedtime. He insisted on walking me to my car and opening the door for me. Fine, whatever. Then he hugged me, and when we went to break apart, he tried kissing me. I turned my face and he immediately got agitated, blocked me from entering my car and said, "What? No kiss?" I'm a pretty easygoing and tolerant person, but that was the first time something like that had ever happened, and I immediately felt a slight bit of fear as the guy was blocking my car, and he was about 6'4", so much larger than me. I immediately put on my super serious face and said, "No, sorry, I really need to be getting home now." And luckily he moved. Took a bit of a break from dating after that. Yeah, that's so awkward. Why would they think you were gonna kiss them? And also, when they turned away when they tried to kiss them, for them then to say, "Oh, what, no kiss?" Like, that's a pretty wild reaction to this, and not something that's gonna make the situation any better. I worked at a well-known game shop in my local mall. Sold things like board games and puzzles and card games like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. Anyways, I was working behind the counter when a couple of guys walked in. One of them had a list of specific Magic cards that he wanted for his deck. I pulled up each card on the computer, found it through the copious amounts of binders, and set them aside for him to pay for them. The whole time I was being friendly and making small talk, like someone in my position is supposed to do, especially when my boss was next to me. He paid me, thanked me, and then left. Yeah, so what's the bet that because they were being polite to them, they thought they were interested in them? The next day I came in for my shift early, so I waited and I sat outside the store on a bench. Then came Mr. Nice Guy. He saw me sitting alone and came over to talk to me. I'm not a very talkative person unless I have to be, so I was already pretty annoyed that he was talking to me outside of work. He did the small talk and then went straight to asking me for my number. I politely declined, saying that I didn't give my number out to people I didn't know. And then he did the classic, "Oh, then my name is so-and-so. What's yours?" I said my name is Miss Knox. He held out his hand for a handshake. I shook his hand, but when I pulled away, he, how do I put this, lingered on my hand too long. Like I pulled away and his fingers glided across the back of my hand. We're not strangers anymore. Yeah, no, sorry buddy, I still don't know you. I'm not giving you my number. He then got that butt hurt sort of look. "So you have a boyfriend, huh?" "Yup." "Well, you should have just told me that." And then he got super pissy and then went into the store. Like, oh my god, how dare you politely reject me? This is not okay. Every single person ever must be interested in me, and I am not allowed to be rejected. I feel like if somebody does get rejected and they're not immediately like, "Oh, okay, no worries," and they get angry and upset about it, I feel like that's straight away not a good sign. Like, they don't have to be interested in you. Of course, a guy had an honest to god tantrum that I wouldn't let him sleep over at my place. On a second date, we just met and had only kissed and said second date was on a Tuesday, and then blaming my overwhelming Catholic guilt for why I was denying him. Yeesh. Yeah, well, turns out it's not the overwhelming Catholic guilt. Who would have thought? Went on a date with this guy. He told me he was madly in love with me within half an hour of the first date. When I was getting my train home, he tried to follow me on it. He told me basically his whole life story, so I know that he didn't live near any of my stops, and wouldn't stop texting me asking for a second date, even when I made it very clear that I wasn't interested. Whoa. So because you gave them some attention, I suppose, they're immediately saying after half an hour that they're in love with you? Yeah, that's not totally concerning. A random guy held my crutches for me as I walked down some stairs at uni. He seemed nice and joked about how he once broke a foot. It'll get better, etc, etc. We get to the bottom and he asked me if we could get some coffee. I thank him, but I tell him I'm seeing someone, so he just drops my crutches on the floor and walks away. Seriously. They're like, "Well, I'm not going to be nice to you anymore. Goodbye." Yeah, that's a concerning reaction to this. Like, yeah, they should have been like, "Oh, okay," instead of getting upset. Like, did they have to tell you not to even look in their direction because they're seeing someone? Or are you still gonna get upset? I was dating this guy, really nice, and we moved in together. Awesome. He expects me to cook all of the food, buy all of the groceries, take care of all the bills, and do all of the housework. He occasionally takes a break from his busy schedule of drinking beer and watching sports to tell me that I need to go to the gym or stop eating. I wear a size 2. He also criticizes my housekeeping abilities and constantly tells me how poorly my parents raised me. Oh, get out of here, dude. I'm a successful woman with a master's degree. He barely graduated high school and has never had anything besides an entry-level job. The kicker, he told me that he was just being nice and trying to help me because he cared so much about self-improvement. Needless to say, we're no longer together. Yeah, and on that note, I feel like that's enough for today. That was incredible, but also so horrifying horrifying. So yeah, time for something wholesome. Kinda cool to think someone somewhere is having the best day of their life today. Someone's hearing I love you for the first time today. Someone's gonna get the job of their dreams today. Someone receives some kinda good news today. Tomorrow it could be your best day, so keep going. Wow, that's so true. And that's such an awesome thing to think about. Like, as much as you hear about all the bad stuff going on, there has to be so much good stuff going on. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Random person who smiled at me. Me. Yeah, it's so nice when that happens. Like, oh, somebody's in a good mood. I'm not a player or a coach, yet greatly enjoy serving the Greenwood football program as their janitor. I was humbled today as they shared their state championship with me by gifting me the ring. What fun it is to be a Greenwood Bulldog. Oh, wow, that's so awesome. Congratulations, you're obviously so good at what you do. And yeah, on that beautiful note, I'm gonna leave the episode there, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did, you know what to do. Make sure you like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And the comment of the day goes to C.L. Hinton. Vincey, if you had a cat cam, I'd be checking in on them every 30 minutes. Beautiful pets are the only beings who should be treated this way. I think they would appreciate it. Like a 24-hour-a-day cat stream or something. Yeah, wow, could you imagine? That'd be so cute. What's Chico and Jin and Nez up to? Yeah, wow, that would be adorable. Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you for all the support, guys. It means so much to me. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!